Good evening, everyone. It's Thursday night, which means it's time for the Lions Grid. I'm joined today by Jeffrey Raymond. Jeff, how are you doing tonight?
Good. This is the first week that I felt like it's fall weather is here. There's a little bit of coldness behind the breeze, so I think we're in it, man.
I think so. It definitely seems like it's transitioning. And, the good thing is here for the fourth week in a row, we get to celebrate a Lions victory. Of course, they improved to 5-1 on the season. So we'll talk about that. We'll kick things off as we usually do here. We'll do the grind the grid, our grind the grid segment here, and we'll take a look at the other outcomes from the game. So we'll go ahead. We'll turn on the presentation. We'll get the music cued here and we'll kick things off. Let's see. We're just waiting on the music. Is it going to go? There we go. All righty. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at our what happened in week 6 of the NFL. Starting with Thursday Night Football, an AFC West matchup between the Denver Broncos and the Kansas City Chiefs ended with a 19-18 victory for the Kansas City Chiefs. The game played over in London. The Baltimore Ravens getting a 24-16 win. Of course, the Ravens are our opponent this weekend. In their attempt to get the first win of the season, the Panthers fall short once again, losing 42-21 to the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins definitely handled business there. The Saints losing to the Texans 20-13. Then the Commanders getting a win 24-16 over the Atlanta Falcons. An AFC South matchup between the Indianapolis Colts and the Jacksonville Jaguars ended in a 37-20 win for the Jags. Then we had a matchup between the Seattle Seahawks and the Cincinnati Bengals. That went the Bengals' way, 17-13, the final score there. An NFC North matchup, a suck fiesta, as I'm going to go ahead and call it there, between the Vikings and the Bears. Vikings getting that win at 19-13. The Bears, we'll talk about it when we do our Kings of the North segment, but now 0-2 in NFC North play. In one of the surprising games from the weekend, San Francisco losing to the Cleveland Browns 19-17. The New England Patriots continue to look horrible and lose to the Oakland Raiders. Backup Brian Hoyer came in to finish that game off.
Yeah, go
won
green.
17. That's the only time this week we're going to be saying go green, because it's going to be ugly this weekend when Michigan comes to town. The Lions, of course, getting a win 20-6 against the Buccaneers. The Cardinals against the Rams in an NFC West matchup. The Rams easily winning that game 26-9. The other shocking outcome from the weekend, the Eagles traveled to New York to take on the Jets. Well, I guess technically New Jersey to take on the Jets, and they lost 20-14. The Bills, because the Giants are awful, found a way to win 14-9, but the Bills did not look good playing an awful team that had their backup quarterback in, with Tyrod Taylor getting the start over Danny Dimes. And then finally, the Monday night game, a close game between the Cowboys and the Chargers. The Cowboys do get that win. Again, 2017, the final score there. And then two teams were on a bye this past week. They had time to relax, recover, recuperate, those being the Green Bay Packers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that's what's happened around the league. We've just grinded the grid. And Jeff, I know we'll talk about it here in just a moment, but some surprising outcomes this past week.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you mentioned the Giants and the Bills game. You know, Giants put up a fight. They showed up for the first time in this season so far. I know Danny Dimes, like you mentioned, was not active because he has I believe, a neck injury. But they could have easily won that game. I mean, if Tyrod Taylor checked down to a run play, which I don't think was supposed to happen, so that cost him points. And it's just it. I guess if I was a Giants fan, I would be kind of at least have some excitement in that. Like, we stepped up and played a decent game against the Bills, despite us having such a horrid season so far. But that was surprising to me for sure.
Yeah, and the Giants, I think they're now like 0 and is it 0 and 3 or 0 and 4 in prime time
They
this
they
season?
beat oh in prime time, yes, they
In prime
yeah,
time, yeah.
we've been blessed with Giants prime time games for way too many weeks now.
Yeah, and all they keep doing is losing. So hopefully the NFL will take note of that next year because unlike the Lions, the Giants have not lived up to the billing.
Yeah.
Uh, Now, as you know, we talked about that surprising outcome. We're going to transition here into our buy or sell segment today, Jeffrey. Um, and we'll kick things off with talking about those surprising outcomes. The first item we have for up for business here today is which upset was more surprising? Cleveland beating San Francisco or the Jets beating Philly? Which one of those two are you going to buy?
I thought I'm going to buy Cleveland beating San Francisco. I know Cleveland's defense is very good, but I thought they could not make up for it on offense. But it turned out the defense held San Francisco in check, kept it a close game, and Brock Purdy actually looked human in this game. But this is probably the best defense that he's faced outside of maybe the Cowboys, but the Cowboys didn't show up in that game when they played the 49ers. But that was very surprising because it wasn't a starting quarterback. They went with
PJ
DTR again.
Walker.
PJ Walker, that's right, not DTR.
Yep.
PJ Walker. I'm a PJ Walker fan though, XFL MVP. But that was surprising to me because with New York Jets and Philadelphia, I feel like Philly so far this year hasn't like gone up to their full power that we saw last year. They haven't been as dominant in these games, and I think they came up against a really good defense and a team kind of fighting for their livelihood now. In the Jets, and they weren't able to get the job done.
I think the most surprising thing for myself, as far as that game was concerned, is the fact that you had the injuries to McCarthy, you had or yeah, not McCarthy, McCaffrey, you had the injury to Debo, and yet you didn't really see George Kittle step up and fill that void, which was kind of surprising. You would think that they would really try to run the offense through him. Brandon Ayuk was nowhere to be seen too. Now, for me, I'm going with the Philadelphia being the bigger spoiler, them losing to the Jets. But I definitely think that was one thing that was surprising to me is the fact that when you had a void, to me it makes sense San Francisco losing to Cleveland because they lost their two best offensive playmakers, the two guys that have really been making Brock Purdy look good in that offense. And I do think Brock Purdy is still a good quarterback and still is teetering on that elite, that the cusp of being considered elite all the time. But anytime you're losing your two best offensive playmakers, it's going to make any quarterback look a little more human. You take Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne away from Peyton Manning all those years. He still has Dallas Clark at different points and Edgerrin James, but you get what anytime any quarterback loses their main weapons, it can be a big hit to them. And with the thing that surprised me about the Jets beating Philadelphia was the fact that they did it without any major injuries to Philadelphia. Like Philadelphia had their full complement of weapons, and they just got the defensive scheme that the Jets took was able to neutralize Jalen Hurts. It was able to neutralize their running game, and they really just came out and they won that game. And Zach Wilson played okay. Surprising.
Yeah.
Surprising.
I will say for someone who's a bit maligned this entire season, especially after Aaron Rodgers went down, he got thrust into a situation where he was supposed to be the backup for the rest of the year. He was supposed to be learning under Aaron Rodgers. Now he's thrust here into the starting role. And I know this first game was rough and he has some rough patches, but he has improved as the weeks have gone on and he's seeing some live game action. But I don't think it's going to be enough to help them get to whenever Aaron Rodgers is planning on coming back, week 17 or something like that with his new age surgery. But at the very least, he's been improving every week, even if it's minor.
Very true. That's all you can really ask for.
Yeah.
One thing that we've talked about a lot here on the buy or sell segment, Jeff, is MVP, rookie of the year, things like that. And we always come back to the idea that, obviously QBs have an advantage in the yearly awards because of, the importance they play in teams. But for our buy or sell question here, we have are you buying or selling the fact that Miami has the two best candidates for MVP who aren't QBs, that being wide receiver Tyreek Hill and running back Raheem Mostert? What are your thoughts here?
I am absolutely buying Tyreek Hill as far as a non-quarterback MVP candidate. I mean, this dude is absolutely lighting everybody up. He's almost at 1,000 yards in receiving so far. He's always open. He not only does he get open, he gets schemed open, and Tua is really good at those first reads here, first or second reads, where Tyreek is the main, the wide receiver one main target on that play. And I think their offense is absolutely rolling right now. Raheem Mostert, I'm gonna buy just because I don't really feel like any other offensive player that's not a quarterback is kind of catching my eye yet. His production has been insane. I think that Tyreek Hill is more likely to keep up his insane production than Raheem Mostert. But yeah, for me, it's a buy for both at the current point.
Yeah, I think I'm in that same boat. Again, it's hard for a non QB to win these yearly awards, but obviously Tyreek Hill is on pace to have just a incredible season. If he keeps up these numbers, he's gonna just shatter all the records for receiving yards and things like that. And then Raheem Mostert has a ton of touchdowns already. I think he's been, in terms of people's radar, was a little bit. He was flying under the radar, I think, because of what Devon Achane was doing. The rookie who's now injured. Because both of those running backs were having a lot of success in that Miami offense. But Mostert just continues. Of course, he's healthy, so he's continuing to see production and just has. He has 9 rushing touchdowns already on the season. I think he has a couple of receiving touchdowns to add on to that. So he has just been. He's got a nose for the end zone, and I think that definitely helps his chances. And if you are a person who find yourself not as a QB, yards are impressive, but I think touchdowns are really going to be the way that you can snatch that award away from a quarterback. And so the fact that he does have 9 on the ground already, plus the receiving touchdowns, I think gives him a good chance of potentially, keeping himself as a good candidate for the yearly awards. Now this next one is kind of interesting because, of course, we're playing one of the AFC North teams here, Jeffrey. But what do you think about the idea of the AFC North being the strongest division in the NFL? Are you going to go ahead and buy that one, or are you going to sell?
I am selling that one. Yes, they have some. They're by the record. Yes, they are the strongest division, but to me, Pittsburgh is really shaky. I think Baltimore is the best team there currently until the Bengals kind of get right on offense here. I think that the bottom 2 teams are going to end up being like some of the worst teams in the NFL. So I am definitely selling this.
Yeah, definitely from a record perspective, you look at it, and again, each team, they're the only division to have every team have at least 3 wins. I think they're probably the most balanced division in the NFL. I don't necessarily know if that makes them the strongest, but I think they're the most balanced, right? Like, I think teams 1 through 4 in the division do have a chance to win it. But just because you are the winner of the AFC North, I don't really know how that means you stack up against, the other teams who are winning their other divisions. So I'm going to go ahead and sell this one as well. I think one of the main reasons that I'm going to do that is obviously, Cleveland's defense is looking really good, but they're having, obviously they're having to turn to their backup QBs and things like that, which I think hurts them in the long run. And then, of course, the Steelers, I'm not really sure what they're going to be able to maintain throughout the year. And, of course, the Bengals as well. We haven't seen prime Joe Burrow yet this season. So, it's I think overall the records are reflecting that they are good teams. And, again, I think they are the most consistent division in the NFL. But I'm not sure if that makes them the strongest division in the NFL. And Ed had mentioned earlier, I didn't catch it, but he had mentioned that he was going to buy as well with Tyreek, and mentioned, can anyone guard him? But right here, talking about the AFC North, he agreed with us as well. He's selling agree that they're balanced, but don't see a team making a deep run in the playoffs, whoever gets in from that division. I think that's beautifully sums up our points there. And then next up, we have a question, or a buy or sell here, featuring the Washington Commanders quarterback, Sam Howell. This is sort of the type of accolade record that you don't want to capture, but currently he's been sacked 34 times. The record for a single season belongs to David Carr, who back in 2002 was sacked 76 times. Jeffrey, are you buying or selling the fact that Sam Howell will set a new record for the single season amount of times being sacked?
76 times is absurd. That I'm gonna sell that. That's a huge number there. I think as the season goes on, their offensive line issues are gonna at least they're gonna get better at what they're trying to do. I think Sam Howell also he's kind of a spicy quarterback. He's definitely a gunslinger and he's willing to put it all out there. But he's going to make a lot of mistakes for you. And hold the ball often because he wants to make that big play. But I think overall he might get close, but I don't think he's going to break that record. 76 seems like it's ridiculous to me.
I mean, that is a huge number, but I will. He is on pace currently to reach 94. So if things keep progressing the way they have been, that he will not only pass it, he will shatter it. But I think you bring up a great point. Sam Howell being a spicy quarterback. I think one thing that gets overlooked with him too is the fact that he is a very young quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
He is very, he's not a rookie, obviously, but he's a season. This is his second season in the NFL. So he's definitely a very young guy. You definitely tend to see younger quarterbacks get pressured more and struggle figuring out the answer to that pressure. To your point, hopefully he's going to get better at that throughout the season. But at the moment, it seems like it's just open season on him behind that offensive line. So, even if they improve, the fact that he's on pace to be sacked 94 times, the record being 76 seems like a lot, but the fact that 94 is so many more times than 76, I'm going to say the Washington Commanders and Riverboat Ron find a way to get more, even if it's 77 or 76 and a half. I bet you that Sam Howell sets a new record for the most times sacked in a single season.
I think Riverboat Ron is just Ron now. I think he lost the riverboat. He's punting on all kinds of cowardly situations, going for field goals instead of wins. I don't know what's going on with him.
It's crazy. It's crazy. He's still in our hot butt segment, but they just continue to like win games and lose games. So they're a very confusing team.
Yeah.
Now we'll take a little more Lion-centric focus here as we do some buy or sell. This first one, a pretty spicy one if you're going to buy it. The Lions will be the number one seed in the NFC. Of course, now there are 3 5-1 teams in the NFC, those being San Francisco, Philadelphia, and the Detroit Lions. Jeffrey, are you buying the fact the Lions win the number one seed?
The Kool-Aid's coming out early in this episode because I'm buying this. We are the most complete team, even with all of our injuries down there. We still find a way to win. Jared Goff is in a renaissance season of his Super Bowl run, where he was absolutely going off, especially in the second half of the season with the Rams. But we're stacking wins, and I really think after seeing Philadelphia and San Francisco go down the way they did, I think we can hang with pretty much everyone, and I think we've been more dominant. So I'm buying.
I'm there with you. You know what? I mean, I think, dare I say, he comes out here and has another game against the Ravens. I mean, he was the FedEx Offensive Air Player of the Week. He was the NFC Offensive Player of the Week last week against Tampa Bay. If he comes out and has another performance and carries this team, which he'll probably have to do because of the injuries to the running game, if he comes out and does this against the Ravens again, I think next week, spoiler, we might have a buy or sell question about, does Jared Goff deserve to be the MVP? Because I mean, we'll take a look at the numbers, but I'm pretty sure he is putting in work there behind center. And ever since he came to Detroit and partnered up with Ben Johnson, the Lions have been super spicy. He is definitely at times, I think a knock against him is that he's seemed more like a game manager, that he's been afraid to stretch the ball down the field and things like that, and doesn't take as many risks. Of course, he had that long streak without interceptions. And even the long touchdown pass to JMO this weekend, the deep ball isn't necessarily his bread and butter. It's not his forte. But he just does make such good decisions with the ball. He feels very comfortable in this offense. And I think he does a great job of leading the team. So, yeah, I mean, I think with as long as Jared Goff stays healthy, the Lions definitely have a shot here to get that number one seed. And I was taking a look at the future games down the schedule, trying to see, okay, if I go with the Lions today for the pick 'em, what team is going to be that team that I go against the Lions on? And I don't know if it happens. I don't think the Lions are going to win out the rest of the season, but
It's hard to take the Lions versus the field because so many things can happen in these next half of the season here.
Exactly. But they're looking so good,
They
and
are.
it's very refreshing to have a Lions team that's playing at this level. So
Absolutely.
I'm with you, Jeff. We'll drink the Kool-Aid. We'll say Lions for that number one seed. And we don't seem to be alone in that, because our next buy or sell here, Lions fans have been turning away games into home games. Are you buying or selling the fact that the Lions fans can continue to show out and turn up at these away games like they have been?
I'm buying. We've been saving our money for 50 years, not going to these games because we've been either crappy to medium good, and we're coming out because our fan base is excited. I think it's one of those things where this is the human side of sports, and it's so downtrodden for so many years that this is getting our fan base hyped up. They're showing up to games, and I think with the way the ticket sales and the methods they use, it's easier for away fans to get to these home games that are not for their team. Dan Campbell, even, I think he said on Tuesday or Monday, he was like, these away games are turning into home games because the Lions fans are coming out there and being raucous. But I'm absolutely buying it. I think we're going to show up all season. There's a lot of Detroit fans out there who are ready to see this team excel like this.
Edward agrees there. He's going for a huge buy. Lions fans are hungry, and he did comment earlier too about the seeding situation. He's not ready yet to say they can get that number one seed, but he does hope we're right. So I mean, that even goes into the fan mentality, right? For people coming to the games, there are expectations with this team. They're stacking wins. They're doing the things, taking advantage of opportunities. So we may not know what the ceiling is for this team, but I think the fan base is energized. We're excited, and you're seeing that turn into people making their way to the stadiums on Sundays. We talked a little bit about the pass earlier, and we'll talk about it more when we do a recap from the game. But this next buy or sell right here is JMO the deep ball threat the Lions offense needs. Are you buying or selling that? Has he, in his short time back, done enough to make you believe that he can be that guy for the Lions?
I'm buying this. I think he stretches the field, and I know some people are saying like he's going to be a glorified decoy if he doesn't pan out. But I mean, this dude is fast. I don't know if you saw him on. It was actually a poorly thrown ball by Goff. It was like a hitch route by Jameson. He stopped absolutely on a dime, and that DB went flying because he could not hold on to his ankles. They were absolutely just busted on that play, and I think it stretches out the defense in a way that our offense was kind of lacking. I know we have great receivers, but Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's a good slot receiver. The other receivers, they don't strike me as true deep threats like Jameson would. And kind of going back to Jared Goff and playing it at elite level, what he is the most elite at, and I think the best, his best part of his game is his play action game. And I think Ben Johnson's really leaning into that. He was great at play action at the Rams, especially when they had Todd Gurley before his arthritic knees caught up with him. Like, they were the best team running play action there. Ben Johnson's dialing it up here. So I'm hoping that our run game needs to stay competitive so we have the threat of play action. Otherwise, they're just going to sit on these routes. But as of right now, yes, he's helping us stretch out the defense, and it's going to let our other people feast at the very least.
Well, we have Armando weighing in here on Facebook saying that these are the absolute best Lions he's seen in 25 years of life. He is drinking the Kool-Aid with us. And then Edward, of course, is buying in with us as well. His only concern being, again, can Jared consistently get the ball down the field? I think one of the things with JMO, that concern there being just the fact that I think he can outrun Jared Goff's arm. Not only can he get behind defenders, but I think he can get out of range. And to your point, he was able to make that adjustment and make a catch and then make a play there to get that 45-yard touchdown.
He had to
Um,
start jogging at the end of that route because
yeah,
he was already at the point of the catch. He had to slow down. That
so
this dude is fast.
he is, and I know Joe's not here, so I will. I'll do it for him. I'll talk about Madden, and in Madden this year, he is 98 speed, which the only person who's faster is Tyreek Hill in the game. And I don't think that is, I think that is a testament because obviously Madden sends people to mini camps, they send people to the rookie what am I trying to think of? What is the rookie thing called? The combine. That's
combine.
it.
Yep.
Yeah, they send people to the combine and they take in all those stats when they do their calculations. It's Madden, you have to take it with a grain of salt. But the fact that he is that quick, I think does translate to real life. We are seeing that he is just an exceptionally speedy guy, and speed kills in the NFL. If the Dolphins have proven anything, speed kills. So yeah, definitely excited to see him. And I think the nice thing with him is he's kind of doing the same thing the Lions as an organization are doing, where he's starting to stack wins. Right, he's starting to catch the ball. He's taking these small. He's not getting a ton of opportunities at the moment, but the opportunities he's getting, he's starting to capitalize on them. And I think that's really, the way the Lions have turned themselves around is by doing that. So it's great to see JMO sort of follow that same sort of pattern, and hopefully he can continue to build upon the success he's starting to show, because would definitely love to have him as a weapon come playoff time.
Absolutely. I know Ben Johnson was talking at the Wednesday practice about, Jameson Williams. We're trying to ease him back in. We want to stack good practices together, because this team is and I think Dan Campbell is a great testament to this. This team is a very team-oriented football team. So if you're not going out there and blocking, not doing the reps, not playing team football, you're not going to get the looks or the plays or the targets necessarily, or get plays drawn up for you. But he's doing exactly what he has to do with someone who's coming off an injury, coming off a suspension. And it's exciting to have a prospect like this.
Most certainly. It's similar to this Lions team, right? We know he's good. We just don't know what the ceiling is, and it's going to be exciting to see how high he can climb. One area, as you mentioned, that's a bit of a concern is the injuries. Obviously, David Montgomery went down, and Craig Reynolds stepped up. I just saw that Craig Reynolds is listed as questionable now too,
Yeah.
And also Bam Knight got injured as well in the previous week. So the Lions' backfield, on top of Montgomery and Gibbs, is looking a little depleted. Are you buying or selling the fact that the Lions need some help there in the running back room, either through free agency or through trade?
So I've been kind of flipping back and forth with this all day, actually, with this decision. I'm at work being like, oh, should I buy or sell this one? This one was the hardest one on the show running document you sent me. But the Lions have invested quite a bit in the backfield. I mean, spending a first top 10 pick on Jahmyr Gibbs, signing to a long-term deal with Montgomery to kind of replace like that power back that Jameson Williams was. And with both these guys down, and actually 4 guys down in the backfield, our offense is predicated on having a successful run game, because like I said, Jared Goff's biggest superhero strength that he has is his play action game. And if we can't get into play action situations and have the defense respect our run game, they're going to be sitting on these routes. They're going to force Jared Goff to do things that I don't think necessarily is in his game, which is, kind of going out there and taking control of a game, at least not that we've seen yet. But there were a couple of rumors as we kind of get close to the trade deadline of Lions taking a look at other running backs around the league. I know the Titans are looking to be sellers at the trade deadline. So there was some bubbling up, like, should the Lions go swing for like Derrick Henry for a year? He's on a contract year. So it would be like a 1-year rental. If that's the kind of situation, I would almost buy this, kind of making sure our run game is at least somewhat respected. If we can't get production out of these guys who are signing off the practice squad. So I'm actually going to buy this. I wouldn't be surprised if we go out and get another running back before the trade deadline.
Yeah, so I definitely would like to see them add in a guy too. Unfortunately, a lot of the sure-handed, I say sure-handed, and one of the guys I'm going to mention is Delvin Cook, who has been having some fumbleitis. But a lot of the guys that were free agents earlier this offseason, those veteran guys, Delvin Cook, Zeke, Kareem Hunt, a lot of them, of course, now are with teams. Not sure if Leonard Fournette's still out there, but I certainly think there would be an advantage to adding in a seasoned running back because I think this offensive line is good enough where as long as you are a competent NFL caliber running back that you can find success. I mean, we saw Craig Reynolds. He didn't have a huge day. The Lions didn't run for a ton of yards, but he was out there making some plays and being successful. He was contributing in the passing game as well. So, I think you don't necessarily need while it would be certainly some exciting fan fiction to bring King Henry here, and if the price was right, I wouldn't be upset. I don't want to see them buy too high to bring somebody in, but I do think they I don't know if having uh, you know guys who are unproven behind the line is the way to go either. So I would like to see him bring in maybe somebody to add in some stability, but I don't necessarily want him to sell the house to make it happen.
Now, what if it was for like a fourth or fifth round pick? Because I know
oh yeah,
for like 1 year rentals, like kind of like in Derrick Henry's situation, that's been the going rate, especially because he's kind of on a downturn. I think it's more so on their offensive issues that they have. But I guess what would be too high of a price, I guess, to get in like a running back of a high caliber like that?
I think my breaking point would be that if it's fourth, I would say no. If it's fifth, I'm fine with it, just based off of what Brad Holmes has been able to do with his draft capital. I think the fourth and above is I think he takes really good players, so I would not want to give above a fourth or above, but a fifth round pick I would be okay with for somebody who is a more of a proven back. And mind you, we are in this era where running backs are not as valued as they once were. So, I with that in mind, I don't expect most teams to be like Jim Irsay, where they're like, well, we don't value you, so we're not going to pay you a contract, but then we want like 5 first-round picks to trade you. You know what I mean? You can't have it both ways, Jim Irsay, and I expect most competent organizations in the NFL to sort of realize that. So hopefully, really, I'm going to trust in Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell because they are, at this point, they've put this roster together. They've done a great job of identifying the talent that fits this team. And so if they ultimately, whether it's a fourth round pick or a third, whatever they ultimately feel is worth giving up to bring in a guy, if that's what they decide they need to do, I'm going to trust it because so far this season, they've proven that they know the shit. So I'm good with it. We have a couple comments here. We have Armando chiming in again on Facebook. And he's talking about JMO here. A big fan of what he's bringing to the table. Been following him since his high school days and excited to see what he can really do once the team is fully healthy. And
I mean, he was down making blocks too. It was awesome.
It was great to see, especially in the previous game.
Yeah.
When he sprung that big run. And then Edward, of course, here chiming in on this item. He's going to sell on this one. He thinks the team will be able to make do with the running backs they have on the team. It has been working, so it's just once we reach the bottom of the barrel, though, you can't have a next man up if there's not a next man. So that's what I'm worried about. But yeah, that's our buy or sell segment. We'll go ahead and for the hot butts this week, not much has really changed. There were some of those coaches that we have on there, Josh McDaniels, Ron Rivera. They did get some wins, but overall, everyone else kind of. I mean, Kevin O'Connell did get a win, but he beat the Bears.
Right.
He beat the Bears.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, we won't necessarily go through everybody again, but
in a game that they could have lost too, which is.
If we do feel the temperature getting turned up on somebody, we'll certainly keep you posted on our hot butts list. But everyone kind of still is got a roasty, toasty behind that we had on the list. So no real updates there. As far as the King of the North segment goes, of course we do have some updates there. The Packers were the only team that was on a bye, so they're still in second place. The Lions, of course, getting a win. really solidifying that lead we have currently in the NFC North. Minnesota, of course, getting the win over Chicago, so they're 1-0 in the division. And we, of course, don't play them until later in the season. But it seems like outside of beating a crappy Chicago team, that Minnesota is going to be crappy themselves. So, it might not even matter by the time we have to play them. We might already have the NFC North locked up because they have just been awful against teams that aren't the Bears. So, yeah, we are the Kings in the North currently. Feels good. Again, we're
3-game lead.
Nice. We kind of want a little bit more. We want to take over the NFC in general. Me and Jeff buying into that one, but that's where we're at. And the reason we're there is because of what happened last week. We already talked about it. The Lions traveled down to Tampa Bay. They won 20-6, got the victory. Tampa Bay was in first place with the NFC South. I believe they're still technically in first place in the NFC South, but it'll be interesting to see if that continues. I think it was a good test for both teams, and the Lions definitely getting that win showed that they are the stronger of the two teams. I think Tampa Bay will probably see them make the playoffs, but certainly their defense is really good in general. Like, they have a top 10 defense, but they really struggle to get off the field on third downs. That was something that definitely hurt them against the Lions. The fact that we were able to convert on so many third downs made a big difference for us. And
plus,
really,
we got Baker Mayfield's kind of the Jekyll and Hyde quarterback. He's going to come in with a bunch of juice one game. Next game, he's going to kind of, let off a bit, whether that's mental or just the consistency that he has. But we played against a really good defense, and we scored 20 points and we held them to no touchdowns. Let's take that.
Absolutely. And we talked about it a little bit already, but the interesting thing there, of course, being that we only rushed for 40 yards in the game, lost David Montgomery to a rib injury in the second quarter, and Jared Goff stepped up, man. Went 30 of 44 for 353 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a passer rating of 107.5.
That's your NFC Offensive Player of the Week right there.
Your NFC Player of the Week, your FedEx Big Air Player of the Week. He completed passes to 10 different receivers, with Amon-Ra St. Brown leading the way with 12 receptions, 124 yards, and a 27-yard touchdown. And, of course, J-Mo contributing 2 catches, including his 45-yard touchdown in the third quarter. And we had talked about last week the fact that the Lions hadn't been scoring points in the third quarter. That was, it was great to see J-Mo be involved, but the fact that happened in the third quarter, they were already leading 10-6 at that moment, but the fact that they were able to get that touchdown, extend the lead, and do it in the third quarter was great to see against, a good defense. So that was exciting to see. I have some stats around Penei Sewell. I could also do them around Frank Ragnow, because Frank Ragnow has also been fantastic. But according to Pro Football Focus, in his during this 4-game winning streak, Penei Sewell has 143 pass blocking snaps. He's allowed 0 sacks and allowed pressure on 0.7% of those snaps.
That's a big man.
That is ridiculous. And he's expecting a new daughter soon. So Penei Sewell having a fabulous time this fall.
Getting the new daddy bump.
He is going to town. And of course, you mentioned, Jeffrey, that we scored 20 points. So the Lions now have extended their NFL best streak and franchise-long record to 15 straight games of 20 or more points in a game. And this was also the 4th time this season that the Detroit defense held its opponents to 20 points or fewer. Of course, we didn't give up a touchdown in this game on Sunday. And all 3 of those games 3 of those 4 games that the Lions have done that have been on the road, which I think is fantastic. The fact that our defense is traveling is great, because when it comes, obviously, if we do win the number 1 seed in the NFC, the road to the Super Bowl then goes through Detroit, which is fantastic. But if we do end up in the 2nd or 3rd seed, the fact that our defense and our fans are traveling so well, that's great to see. That's a recipe for success. So hopefully they'll be able to sustain that. Also, our Lions rush defense has been fantastic. Um, in each of the 6 games so far this season, Jeffrey, the Lions have held their opponents to under 100 yards rushing. They held Tampa Bay to just 46, and this is only the
Ooh.
fourth time in their history that they've done that. The previous 3 times the Lions have done that, they weren't even the Detroit Lions. Like Joe mentioned, they were the Portsmouth Spartans, and that was way back in 1932, 1931, and 1930.
That's nuts, especially after last year, the run defense being one of our Achilles heels. Just overall, we were absolutely terrible against the run, and it was I think it was one of our preseason episodes where we're like, what unit has to step up? And we were like, and I think the consensus was our run defense, or our defense in general, but our run defense. I mean,
Mhm.
we went into Carolina with playoff aspirations, and they almost broke the rushing record against us. But
They
what a
shat on
turnaround
our
this year!
dreams.
Yeah, what a turnaround this has been. This is awesome.
Yeah, big credit to the defense and Aaron Glenn. They have done a fantastic job taking what, to your point, what was a weakness and making it a strength. Alex Anzalone, sorry, led the team with 9 tackles. He had a pair of breakups and a tackle for a loss. So he sort of led the charge there for the defense. Um, we sort of talked about it. Um, this win and the losses by San Francisco and Philadelphia makes us tied with them atop the NFC. And is in terms of the road to the playoffs go, in terms of difficulty of schedule and things like that, the Lions really have a it's the NFL, so nothing's necessarily easy, but they have a favorable schedule with the rest of their matchups. So it certainly could be a great thing for them moving forward. They now are 3-0 with 3 big wins in Kansas City, Green Bay, and now Tampa Bay. They have a chance here this weekend to go into Baltimore and get a win. And I mean, if they really can do that with what they've really showing that they are a strong team when it comes to playing on the road, and really makes that game that we dropped to Seattle look more like a fluke, or just a blip on the radar, as opposed to something we need to be worried about, which is fantastic. So, we talked about the fans traveling to these road games. Dan Campbell had mentioned the fact that Tampa Bay, it got so loud late in that game that Tampa Bay, the home team, had to go to a silent count on their third down
Yes.
plays. So, shout out to Lions fans, and shout out to this Lions team, because uh, we talked about it, Jeff. It's refreshing to have a football team that is, a real football team that can go out there and not only win games but control games,
Hmm.
and be competitive regardless of who their opponent is. And it's a good time to be drinking that Honolulu Blue
It
Kool-Aid,
is
man.
absolutely, and this game coming up with Baltimore, it's going to be our first test of seeing like a mobile quarterback and an elite
Mhm.
mobile quarterback as it is. So this is going to be another good test for us. But after that, like you said, our schedule is pretty favorable. After that, we play some weak teams, so we can definitely stack these wins and keep drinking that Kool-Aid here.
Absolutely. Well, before we take a preview of this weekend's game, let's lock in our champs and chumps from this previous week. I'll start with mine. Penny Sewell. I've been wanting to, like, as I mentioned, over these 4 games, he's been great. So each week I've kind of been looking his way. And this week I'm going to call his number. Penny Sewell is going to be my champ. I think he's really been leading the way on this offensive line. Again, Frank Ragnow's also been playing great, but just Penny Sewell, big shout out to the big guy, because he has been playing real well. And then my chump, I've been trying to stick with Lions chumps, and when your team is playing as well as they are, it really gets difficult to find a chump. So this time I said, you know what? I'm gonna go off the Lions, and I'm gonna go with the New England Patriots offense, because they're now 1-5, and somehow, just when you think they've hit rock bottom, they find a way to go deeper. They averaging 12 points a game, which is the worst in the NFL. They have a turnover ratio of -8, which is tied for the worst ratio in the NFL. and they've been outscored by 73 points in their
The
last
football
three
gods are
games.
coming to collect for the 20 years of dominance.
There must have been some sort of blood magic or voodoo or deal with the devil that they made, because you're right. It seems like payment has come due, and just I mean, yeah, they've yet to score over 20 points in a game. They haven't scored 20 points in the last 3 games combined. Mac Jones it has 0 touchdowns and 5 interceptions in the last 3 games. It's just, and there's no sense that it's getting any better.
No.
It's a dumpster fire, and the New England Patriots offense, my chump of the week. And I think, if it was last year, it would make sense because they didn't have an offensive coordinator, and then they like forced Matt Patricia to be the offensive coordinator, and like that would make sense to me if that was if that was what was going on from a coaching perspective. But they brought Bill O'Brien back to be the offensive coordinator, and he is a
Yeah.
perfectly capable offensive coordinator. He's been a head coach at the college level, at the NFL level, and it's like amateur hour over there. So
Yeah.
the New
I mean, I
England
think a lot
Patriots,
of it is Belichick's drafting strategy, because he's the GM there. His drafting
he
strategy on
is.
offense is just, it's not good. I mean, he's a defensive coach, and I'll give him, he's got his defensive acumen is elite and one of the best in the NFL. But like, you can't be running this 90s, early 2000s style kind of offense anymore. You need to get athletes out on the field. You need to get talent on that side of the ball. And it's just, you're right. It's going to get worse and worse for them unless they do something.
It's I think they just need to wave the white flag and just, I don't know if you can
Tank for Caleb.
forfeit games until 2024, but just like don't show up because it's not looking good. Who are your champs and chumps for this week, Jeffrey?
So for my champs and chumps, I've gone all over the place. I've been with the Lions. I've been outside the NFL. This year, I'm going to split the difference. My champ of the week is Jared Goff, NFC Offensive Player of the Week. People were crapping on him in the beginning of his career, saying Sean McVay has to call the defensive coverages for you and the helmet, mic, and the speakers and everything. But this guy has just grinded. He's got that grit mentality that Detroit, the Lions have. He embodies this, and I think he went out and balled without his full complement of weapons. And he is my champ of the week. My chump of the week, I'm going down to college football, and I'm going to say the Michigan football program. There was a report out today that they were sending staff to Iowa games to kind of scout out their signals. And I just got to say, I mean, like, Michigan, you're better than this. You're more talented than this. You can win by coaching and defense and talent, and why steal from Iowa? I mean, they should be punished by OSHA for sending an employee over there to look at Iowa's offense, try to steal signals from them, not the NCAA. So they're my chumps of the week. You can do better, Michigan football.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're both Sparties, so people may discredit our feelings there. They may think we're a little bit salty, but yeah, I'm there with you. No, this win by sort of any way means necessary thing, similar to what Bill Belichick did with Spygate and Deflategate and things like that. Like, do you really need to do those things to win the game? Couldn't you just play the game? Yeah, I'm there with you. And then your champ, I love the pick of Jared Goff. I think one of the things that I like about him too is the fact that he hears all of the criticism and things like that he gets on social media and from the media and things like that, and then he doesn't complain about it. He sort of takes it for what it is, and then he goes out there and does what he can to prove them wrong. Like when he was getting called the Matty Ice, the light version of Matty Ice. He's like, he comes out there and shows that he's not, the poor man's. He's not the poor man's anything.
Poor man's
he's Jared Goff.
Ryan, what he was saying. Yeah.
So
disrespect, man, disrespect.
Yeah, I think this season is going to go, especially if the Lions can continue to play well. I think it'll go, really, regardless of what the outcome of the season is. I think he's doing enough in these 2 seasons to show that he is one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL, and people should really start taking notice of the fact because, yeah, he's playing lights out right now.
Absolutely.
Now, taking a look at the game day storylines, obviously there are quite a few days till Sunday, so the injury reports something you're going to want to keep an eye on. We like I mentioned, I did see Craig Reynolds jump on there at one point. I'm sure he'll probably be available for the game, but other players like Brian Branch, Jonah Jackson, you're going to want to keep an eye on them and see if they'll be back.
Brian Branch did announce that he's going to play today, so
Oh, did he?
I
Okay,
think we get him back. Yeah,
it'll be not well. Hopefully, he comes back and can stay healthy because he's
yeah.
definitely been. I think he's one of for me, he's the most exciting rookie on the team, and I love to see him out there. But every time he gets hurt, my heart skips a beat, and I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
Especially because they tend to be away from the ball injuries, and those
Mm-hmm.
tend to be the more serious ones. And so we've been lucky. So I don't want to see him go down for any long period of time. So hopefully he's not rushing himself back too fast. Um, but the Lions are headed to Baltimore. The Ravens are 4-2. They're currently in first place in the AFC North. We talked about how we weren't necessarily buying the fact they're the best division in football, but the AFC North is again they're consistent across the board. Just because they're in first place, though, doesn't mean that the Ravens haven't struggled. They did get a victory here last weekend against the Tennessee Titans. But they are flying back. They had to fly back from London because that game was played overseas. In that game, though, Zay Flowers got his first touchdown, and Justin Tucker, who we know well from what happened in 2021, he made all 6 of his field goal attempts in that game over in London. And the Baltimore defense was able to get 6 sacks on Titans QBs. They did knock out Ryan Tannehill in that game. Um, and Roquan Smith, who we are familiar with from his time with the Bears, is tied for 4th in the league for tackles on the season. He already has 63 tackles through 6 games. He is putting in some work. Um, but as mentioned,
baby.
If you don't remember about what happened in 2021, the Lions were playing the Ravens. We were up. It was 17-16. And then out came Justin Tucker to hit a NFL record 66-yard field goal to win that game 19-17. So it's been a little bit of a revenge tour this season for the Lions early on. Weren't able to get the Seahawks, but we got those Panthers, and now we're coming for the Ravens. Of course, the biggest strength I think for the Ravens is their quarterback. You talked about the mobility of Lamar Jackson. He's certainly their X factor guy on that team. Their defense is also really good. So I would say 1A strength Lamar Jackson, 1B the defense. And their biggest weakness, just because of injury, very similar to what we're seeing with the Lions. Well, not very similar, but same position, the running back, right? They're beat up and depleted there as well. And so, really, Jeffrey, I think the two key matchups are going to be the Lions front 7 versus Lamar Jackson. You touched on it. It's really our first game going up against a mobile dual threat QB. And then the other one being our offense, which is currently the number 4 scoring unit in the NFL, going up against that Baltimore defense. So, I guess it's kind of cheating. Well, it's kind of lame to say, hey, yeah, the key matchups are the Lions defenses versus the Ravens offense, and then vice versa. But that's what it is. That's where you're going to see this game be won, is the front 7 against Lamar. And then if our offense is able to continue to perform at the level we've seen, Jeff, we just want to get your opinion here. We talked about the injuries to the running back position for the Lions. Do you think this is going to be a game where Jared Goff has to come out and sort of shoulder the load against the Ravens?
I think so. I think it's going to be similar to the game against Tampa Bay, where he's going to kind of have to they're going to have to be a more pass-heavy kind of attack going in. I know Jahmyr Gibbs is trending towards playing, so we could see a healthy dose of him. But yeah, if the run game isn't going, we were only rushing for 40 yards by the third quarter. I definitely think it's going to be a passing fourth quarter. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, actually. I think both defenses are pretty good. I think we're about to get to this, but I would bang the under on this one. But Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be a close game. It's going to be super competitive, and I think this is going to be, we've been saying this a lot. It's going to be a good test of the Lions because we're in uncharted territory, being so good here. But this is a good test. This is one of the AFC's premier teams, so it'll be really fun to watch. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we already got the win in Arrowhead. We have the win in Lambeau. This is just another great road win if we can secure it. And as you mentioned, one of the things we're going to try and sprinkle in a little bit more. And mind you, I'm no expert when it comes to betting, and you're definitely not going to get any betting advice from us. But we are going to
please don't bet based on what we say on here.
Yeah, we're going to take a look at the betting lines and things like that, just to help give us a little sense of where sort of Vegas and the odds makers are sort of thinking who has the advantage in the games. And as of yesterday, BetMGM had the Ravens favored in the game. The spread was -3 for the Ravens. The money line for the Ravens was -155. The Lions were +130. And then as that under that Jeffrey wants to bang, 42 is the over-under there. So Jeffrey's thinking we're going to stay under the 42. Edward here, though, is giving us a solid 47 with his projection, with the Lions getting a 27-20 win. He wants a refill on that Kool-Aid. And, as we come here now to lock in our picks for the game, Jeffrey, I guess, well, before we lock in our picks for this week, Joe took one for the team last week, and he took the Bucks. So unfortunately for Joe, he's now 4-2 on the season. And Jeffrey, we're both sitting pretty at 5-1, keeping pace with the Lions because we've chosen the Lions every week so far. And without spoiling it or any more gilding the lily, I'm going to go with the Patriots in this one, the Lions in this one, and I'm going to keep steady there. Joe was not able to join us tonight, but he is locking in the Ravens. So he's either trying to make that game up, or he's going to take the caster curse for us again here. Jeff, who are you locking in this game?
Now, like I said last week, at some point I am going to have to hedge my bets here, especially if I want to be in the top of these standings at the end of the year. But not this week because I'm locking up the Lions. I think we are going to end up winning this game, and it's going to be close, competitive. But I think we're going to end up coming out on top, and people are going to be talking about us even more than they already are.
Yeah, I think this is certainly, looking at the upcoming schedule, I think this is certainly one of the hardest matchups the Lions have left. They also travel to New Orleans to play the Saints. They have to travel to Dallas to play the Cowboys. Those maybe could be games. But again, I don't necessarily hate the Lions odds in those games. So if there's going to be a lot of, when it comes to those days, it's unthinkable that they run the table. So at some point, I'm in that same boat with you where I have to pick against them. But when it comes to time and you look at that individual week, you're like, well, is this really the week, or can they get the win? And unfortunately, I just keep thinking they're going to get the win. So whether it's the Kool-Aid or it's just the Lions difference now, I'm sticking with the Lions. So we'll ride
worst comes to worst, we're all tied again then.
Identical records. Could be good. All right, everybody. Well, that does it for today's show. Jeffrey, thank you for joining in. And everybody, Edward, Armando, Rick, everybody who went ahead and commented throughout the show. We'll throw up Rick's comment here, too, that he left on Facebook. He's thinking that the Lions should win this game when the clock reads 0. So right there, we have me, you, Rick, Ed, all going with the Lions. Joe being the lone dissenting voice there, picking the Ravens. So, hopefully we'll be able to celebrate our 5th consecutive Lions win during next Thursday's episode. Wait. Oh, yep, we do have an episode next week. Okay, I know the bye week is coming up at some point, but it's not yet. It's after.
We need one. We need our guys to get some rest. We need to be in that graphic, in the spa graphic that you got.
We gotta make it through the Ravens. We gotta make it through the Raiders, and then it's spa day, baby. Put some cucumber slices on, relax, get healthy.
Can you imagine Dan Campbell with a face mask and some cucumbers on his face? I bet he would. For being a tough guy. I bet he would.
Yeah, I could see him doing it. I can see him like enjoying the, not an everyday thing, but that once in a while you just need that maintenance.
Oh yeah.
He puts in that personal care. So I could see it. That self love. All right, everybody. Well, thank you for tuning in. Of course, the Lions Grid comes to you live every Thursday evening on Facebook, Twitch, and Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. So whichever one of those channels is your favorite, please do like the Lions Grid. It helps us a lot, and we definitely appreciate your guys' engagement. Um, Edward, I could probably get you a picture of it of Dan Campbell with some cucumbers and a nice face mask, but I can't guarantee that it's going to be authentic. I mean,
Oh, I was gonna say, who's your sources?
I can produce the picture, but I don't know if you'll believe it once you see it. It's the problem. But maybe we'll sprinkle that in as a nice little throwback for next week's episode. I'll see what I can do on the using the old Photoshop. So thank you for everybody who participated. We'll catch you during next week, and hopefully we'll be celebrating another Lions win. I'm Kevin Marhine. He's Jeffrey Raymond. Thanks for tuning in to the Lions Grid.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.